Hey everyone, thanks for logging on to hear some updates about the I3 Atlas study, including next steps for the study in this semester of 2016. This is actually a recap of a webinar that took place on January 22nd that we had some audio issues with the original, so hopefully this is a little bit of a condensed version if you're listening to it later anyway. Okay, so this presentation recaps three main things. The first are updates that have taken place to the Atlas reporting website or that will be coming up in February. The second thing is a summary of what's actually been reported by all of you in terms of Atlas use in 2015. And then the third thing is to actually go through the items in that study activities checklist that we distributed prior to the January 22nd webinar. Before we dive into those agenda items, I did want to remind you of who the study team is here at AIR. So I'm sure you've heard of Shazia Miller, the co-principal investigator in the study, and David Manzeski, and probably met David in person at one of the meetings. And this is Kelly Reese who's speaking, and I know I've met most, if not all of you, before in person. And many of you have also been communicating with Sam Madison, who's an analyst on the project and helping you collect all of your data and sort through reporting. And so I wanted to show you Sam's very friendly face and to remind you that Sam can be contacted by email or by phone. And he's, really friendly and willing to answer any questions that you have. So don't hesitate to reach out as those questions come up. We also wanted to let you know that we have set up a study email address, and that's simply atlas.study@air.org. So that's one more way that you can contact the study team, and you'll notice in the study activities checklist, we reference this email address as the one that you can submit different materials to. Okay, now let's talk about the updates that have taken place or will take place soon to the Atlas reporting website. Okay, so by now most, if not all of you, have logged on to atlas.airprojects.org, which is the URL that you see there on the screen, to tell us how you've been using Atlas with teachers in your institution. And so a few things have come up based on your feedback or patterns in the data that we've noticed that we've addressed in terms of changes to the forms that you're using. And we're instituting several more changes in February that we hope make the process just more efficient for you. So the first thing that's already happened is that if you happen to forget your password, you can actually reset that directly from your summary screen, and you won't have to reach out to us and then wait for that to be reset on our end. The second thing is that we wanted to say a note about adding cases within the form. So as many of you know, this has been a little bit of a tricky issue with a form, and that some people are entering in a case number and then responding as to if video or commentary was used, but then forgetting to select the rectangle button that says add the case. And if you don't select that button, none of the data that you entered on the case is saved. And so we've added some language to make it a little bit more explicit that you do need to hit that button to save the information. And we've, changed some things about the button to highlight it. But what we've realized is that we think we really need to just make that a separate screen that you're taken to so that there's no confusion and no ability really to progress in the form without saving your case info. So far, just those language and design changes have happened, but coming in February very soon, you will be taken to a separate screen to add your case data. So one more thing that's coming up in February is the ability to copy an existing form. We heard that from you that this was something that would be really useful, that you may be using Atlas in similar ways as you've used it before, or your colleagues have used it before. And so from your summary screen, you'll be able to copy any form that you can see there that either you or your colleague has entered or completed in the past, and then that form will pop open and the date and a few other things will be cleared, and you can edit that data as necessary and save the new form. The next thing is that we're adding just a simple feature, a label that you can attach some kind of easy identification to each form that shows up in your summary screen to quickly access things later. The next thing there is facilitator notes. So this is strictly for your use. I won't be using this data in reporting, but it's so that you can just organize any notes that you have about how you used Atlas during that time with teachers. And so it's just one more way to hopefully keep it organized for you and all in the same place. The next thing is the ability to actually attach specific cases to individual teachers or groups all within the same form. So right now, if you have an activity, a Motivate, Construct, Apply cycle where teachers are picking out their own case, there isn't necessarily a way to report that unless you complete a separate form for each teacher and attach that case to the teacher. And so what we'll do is you'll select your teachers and groups within the form in the same way that you have been, but later when you enter your case information, you'll tell us which specific teachers you'd like to attach to each case. And so we'll send out a demo when all these changes are live, but just so you know, that functionality is coming up soon. Okay, and then the last thing is that there's been a little bit of confusion about which teachers are included with groups. That's something that you let us know originally, but to be able to remind yourself of it as you're entering a form, you'll be able to hover over the group name and see the list of teachers within that group pop up right within the form. So now I'll do a quick summary of how reporting went through 2015, and this is data that was in the system as of January 4th. So first, to remind everyone why we're collecting all this information in the first place, the National Evaluation of I3 requires that we have an implementation study and a fidelity of implementation reporting system. So we're trying to answer the question, was Atlas used in the way that everyone said it would be and as often as was intended? And something that's also a requirement is that we track and assess everything at the individual teacher level. So we're really interested in knowing, did each individual teacher in the study whose outcomes we're later looking at through the survey and through their data such as EdTPA, did they receive the amount of Atlas that we all agreed that would be a minimum in terms of trying to make sure that exposure to Atlas really had a chance of having an impact on their practice. And something else that's important to remember is that we want to know about all use of Atlas. So even if it goes above the minimum that's outlined in the parameters, so if a teacher, in an LEA, a district, has 6 Motivate, Construct, Apply cycles throughout the academic year instead of the minimum of 4, it's really important for that to be reported. So the reporting shouldn't stop once that minimum is reached. And of course, the only way that we know about how Atlas is being used with teachers is through the form submission. So it goes without saying, I'm sure, but we need your forms and we need them to be submitted as soon after a cycle is complete as possible for you. And it's really important to strive for accuracy in the form. So if you're, for example, selecting a group within the form that you used Atlas with, and a number of the teachers for whatever reason weren't in the session that day, it's important to go back through and really select the teachers that were there. So as we're adding these things up, we have an accurate picture of how much Atlas each individual teacher received. So as of January 4th, only about half of the registered users that we have on the Atlas Reporting website had submitted forms. So we had received 53 forms from about 25 users, and we have 55 registered users altogether on the site. So some of this may be because at any site, we may have 3 or 4 or 5 registered users who, some people may be aggregating their reporting. Some people may be not using Atlas in courses until the current semester that we're in. So there are all kinds of reasons we know that someone may not be reporting, but it's important that you let us know if it's the case that in 2015 or currently someone who's registered as a user would not be reporting. And so if we know that it's not intended, we won't follow up with them or continue to follow up with them to remind them to report. So In terms of how you are using the reporting, if you remember, you can report on one complete cycle. And in fact, we ask that each form, the maximum that you're reporting on is one cycle within the form. But it could be the case that report on just a motivate activity, just a construct activity, just an apply. So what we have seen though is that most of you are reporting on complete cycles in a form. About 36 forms have a complete cycle reported. And only 16 of you, as of January 4th, had actually reported case numbers within your forms. So we have reached out to everyone to try to correct that and make sure that it's not because of the issue that I mentioned earlier about just the user error in the form and the data on the case not saving. So just a reminder to, talk to your colleagues about making sure they hit that rectangular add your case button to save the data, and new changes will be coming soon to try to rectify that going forward. So 39 different cases were used, unique case numbers across everyone so far in the study. So of the Atlas uses where there were cases reported, which is 49, 43 used both video and commentary. So that's just to say that it looks like in most cases, but not all, when you use a case, you're using it in its entirety and that you're using the video and the commentary together. So now would be a good time to remind ourselves what the minimum use parameters are for the study. So first up, higher education. So for juniors, the minimum exposure to Atlas is 3 unique cases within the academic year, and then 6 motivate, construct, apply with follow-up cycles. 4 of those cycles need to have both video and commentary used within the same cycle. Then for juniors, or for seniors, I should say, the minimum exposure is actually 2 unique cases prior to EdTPA, and then 2 MCAF cycles with then 1 special use case that's individualized to the teacher candidate coming after that. So it could be the case that this, for example, is something that happens during their student teaching experience. One of those MCAF cycles has to use both video and commentary within the same cycle. And just a reminder for seniors, it should be the case that individual teacher candidates have their own access to the Atlas platform so that you're ensured that they can use Atlas if needed while they're in their student teaching experience. Then for teachers in school districts, first or second year teachers, the minimum number of unique Atlas cases is 6 within the academic year, and they should have 4 complete MCAF cycles at a minimum. And then one of those cycles at least has to have video and commentary used together within the cycle, although I know most of you are going above and beyond that. And then another note is that you all decided that there needed to be 8 interactions at a minimum between each teacher and facilitator that are directly connected to Atlas use. So the facilitator and the teacher may be meeting more often than that in sort of like a mentee-mentor coaching relationship, but at least 8 interactions should be directly about Atlas. And that can also include the follow-up that happens as a part of the MCAF cycle. So as a reminder, we're tracking all of this use of Atlas by the individual teacher. So how much Atlas use is each individual teacher getting in terms of how many cases and which cases is each teacher exposed to, and how many in which MCAF cycles are they included within. So you'll start seeing reports a couple of times a month from AIR that let you know a summary of the Atlas use that's taken place at your site. And hopefully this just helps you monitor a little bit better the form submission from your colleagues and the progress that you're making in terms of teacher exposure, and just making sure that teachers are receiving the amount of Atlas that you had anticipated. So then the last thing that we're going to talk about today is the Spring Semester 2016 Activities Checklist. And first, I want to pause and say thank you so much for all of your work coordinating all of this in fall semester 2015. I know so many of you have been doing a lot of work to coordinate Atlas use for your facilitators and teachers, and it is hugely, hugely appreciated. Without your role in what you're doing, the impact study wouldn't exist. So we thank you, and it's hugely appreciated. We know that there are a lot of different things coming up in this spring semester 2016 that require a little bit more interaction, and you'll hear from us a little more frequently. So we put the checklist together to make sure that all the items were there in one place. And we'll walk through each of those 11 items now. The checklist is included in a PDF that you received right before the webinar on January 22nd. The tasks do build off of each other, as you'll see in the timeline, and in a lot of cases we actually need the first thing completed before the next thing can take place. So just make sure that you let us know if you anticipate any delays from the dates that are listed there. And of course, if you have a big or small question about any of the reporting or anything that we're asking, just reach out and let us know, and we'll figure it out. Okay, so first item up on the checklist is to get in any of those outstanding data requests. We've been following up with all of you, and I think in all, if not almost all cases, have a plan worked out to go after the rest of the data that we need from teachers or on teachers. And so this would be their names, emails, ID numbers, their background data, their performance data that we've asked for in File 1 and File 2. And of course, there is the confidential, secure way of submitting any sensitive data in File 2, and that's through the InSync Druva platform. So if you have any questions at all about the remaining data requests or pieces of data that we need, let us know immediately. But I know in most cases we've reached out to all of you directly and have a plan worked out. And of course, we need this as soon as possible because we've really reached our deadline for this data that we've been collecting really since this past summer in order to conduct the matching process for teachers between the treatment and comparison groups. So got to have that data immediately. Okay, so next item up on the list, item number 2, is to confirm the rosters for Atlas Exposed and comparison group teachers, and that's really their names and emails that we've provided back to you. So in most cases, you gave us this list of teachers, months ago, possibly in the summer, and we've been, making plans with you if we think that the list isn't complete to get that list completed. But really, what we want you to do is confirm that the list that we have is accurate. So if we have sent you a report that includes that list, please respond as soon as you can and let us know that, yep, this is good to go. All of the teachers in both groups are included. So our checklist item number 3, we're asking that you send us dates on which your last planned sessions for Atlas will take place in spring 2016. And so we know that some of you only have group uses of Atlas planned, and so maybe this is your 4th or 5th, whatever it may be, MCAF cycle. And so if you can let us know when your planned uses or planned cycles are taking place throughout the spring, we can look at when the last one is occurring to make sure that we're able to administer the survey at a point where teachers have received the minimum amount of Atlas set out in the parameters. And for some of you, it could be the case that coaches are working with teachers extensively beyond that last group session, and we'll want to account for that as well. So let us know that type of information when you confirm the dates of when Atlas is used through spring 2016. And then what we'll do is actually confirm back to you what we think the right survey administration window is. And we're really hoping to have all of those at least tentative by February 8th. And then we'll work through with you if that's really the right administration window to go with. And so every site might have a slightly different survey administration window. So it'll be a 2 to 3 week period in which your teachers have gotten most of their use of Atlas, and we think that it's a good time to open up the survey in your specific site. And we're trying to keep track of things like testing windows, and other district events that may be taking place or college or university events so that we're sure that it's really a good window in which the teachers are going to be able to complete the survey. And then also, as we'll discuss within this window, we'll ask you to schedule group administrations because we know from prior experience that having people complete it in a group is just a way to get a higher response rate. Okay, so if you're following along on the PDF, we're up to checklist item number 4. And I should say that, we want to make sure that as much as possible, we've done some legwork ahead of time to ensure that the survey is going to actually be able to reach teachers. So what we're asking is that by February 19th, you confirm a few things with your IT department. The first is that our survey invitation emails actually won't be filtered out by your servers as spam. So what we're asking specifically that you do is send the study email address from which the survey will come, which is atlas.study@air.org. Send that actual survey or that actual email address to your IT department and have them confirm that it's a whitelisted or an okay email within your system. The second is that we want to make sure that when a teacher, within the email that they get, when they actually go to click on the link to take the survey, that it's not going to be firewalled by institution computers, or use of their personal computer within the institution system. So what we're asking is that we will send you a test link in February, and that you send that test link to your IT department to confirm that it won't be firewalled if someone tries to access it inside your system. Next up is checklist item 5. So by that same February 19th date, we're asking that you confirm with AIR, and you can send this confirmation to the study email address if you would like, the name and email of the person at your institution, so your college, university, or school district, who will actually assist us with the delivery of either EdTPA or student achievement scores. So it might be the case that for an IHE partner, you are the one who's going to actually give us the EdTPA scores, and that's fine. If it is someone else in your institution, we just want to know that in advance so that we can start working with that person, and the request that we make to them later on in the spring or the early summer isn't out of the blue. And then in a district, of course, we know that many of you as partners may not be the person who's going to have access to the student achievement data. And so if you can put us in touch again with that person in your district, we can get that process moving well in advance. And really, we're looking for the time frame within which these scores will be available. So if that's information that you have, definitely confirm that back to us by February 19th as well. So next for checklist items 6 and 7, we're going to be talking about the frequently asked questions document that you also received prior to the webinar on January 22nd. And so what we're hoping is that by February 26th, you can share that FAQ document with principals or faculty members that you're working with that are related to both the Atlas exposed teachers, so those who are getting Atlas, and the comparison teachers that aren't, because both of these groups are going to receive that electronic survey. And what the FAQ is just a list of questions that teachers may have about being in the study. And for comparison teachers, this may be, or probably is, the first interaction or knowledge that they've had of the study at all. And so we want to make sure that principals or faculty members for IHEs, that they are notifying the teachers that the survey is going to be taking place, that they're participating in a study, and then we also want you to bring up the group administrations that we're hoping can be scheduled to make sure that we really are achieving that high response rate that we're after. And we should note that the FAQ is actually a template. The one that you received needs the specific dates for each site filled in. So again, this is an example of earlier items in the checklist needing to be complete before later items can happen. So we want to make sure that we have the group survey administrations figured out by this point so that we can put those in the checklist and or in the FAQ, I should say, and that teachers know exactly when they're going to be receiving the survey. The second item, the next item, item 7, is about sharing those FAQ documents directly with the Atlas Exposed and the comparison teachers. So it might be the case, you know best if you're going to work through the principal and be ensured that the teachers in the comparison school, for example, are getting the FAQ document. It could be that, you're sharing it directly with the group of teachers, or that, again, you've worked something out with the faculty or principal that you're certain it's being shared. But we just want to make sure that this information definitely reaches the teacher and that someone is encouraging the teacher to respond to this survey, and that you're letting them know that it's a part of a study that your institution is behind and taking part in. Checklist item 8 is really about getting those group administrations of the electronic survey that we've been referencing scheduled. So we're asking that you do that by March 11th and then confirm back to us the dates that you've been able to set up. So a group administration for something like an online course could be just a specific time that everyone is virtually coming together to complete the survey, or it could be in a school district, an actual physical event that everyone is coming to one space, like a computer lab, and completing the survey together. So in some cases, it would be crucial to make sure that teachers have access to either their personal or institution computers, because of course it's an electronic survey, and they will have individual links that they've received in an email, so they would need to access their email at that time as well. And we're asking again that you send those group administration dates to us so that we can account for that in our tracking and make sure that that data is showing up in the system when we anticipate it. And we really know from prior experience, having an event like this in which teachers are completing the survey together is a good way to achieve a high response rate. We're really striving to have every teacher included in the study complete the survey. And so I would say 100% response is our goal, but anything above 90%, we're going to feel confident in estimating the differences between the groups that are receiving Atlas and those that are comparison. And to note, we will be sending follow-up emails to all non-responders for the survey. But again, a good way to make sure that they're responding is to hear it from you or someone that they're involved with in their institution. So we're now up to checklist item 9, and for the remaining checklist items 9, 10, and 11, specific dates aren't attached because they may fluctuate a little bit across sites. So for checklist item 9, we're asking that 2 weeks prior to the survey administration window, which we will have confirmed with you through other checklist items before this, that you notify teachers that they're going to receive a save the date to complete the survey from AIR. And what this email, this save the date email, lets us do is actually verify that the teacher email addresses that we have that you've confirmed in the roster are actually working, and that it's an additional reminder to the teacher that the survey is going to be taking place. So a link to the teacher's survey FAQ will also be included in that save the date. So we're hoping that the teacher received that information prior to this, of course, as we mentioned in other items, but they will get that information through the save the date. So now we have 2 remaining checklist items, 10 and 11. For 10, it has to do with the virtual focus groups that will be taking place with teachers who actually used Atlas. And what we're asking is that once we provide you a list of the teachers that we've sampled on our end to participate, that you notify those teachers who are selected and encourage them to participate in the virtual focus group. So it's not something that they all need to be in the same place in order to take part in. It's a platform that they will be able to join from wherever they are. The focus groups are set to take place in late April, and so you'll be receiving that list from us in early April to let them know ahead of time that they've been selected. And we will be reaching out as well, but we're asking for your encouragement. Then the last checklist item is number 11, and this is to, just a reminder that we will be communicating frequently throughout the survey administration window about what the response rate to the survey is, and, ways that we're encouraging survey completion and scheduling any additional group survey administrations if necessary. So if a first one didn't happen or a large group of teachers weren't able to participate, that we're doing everything we can, again, to achieve a high response rate and make sure that we're really capturing the experience of all teachers in the sample. So that wraps up everything that we had to talk about today. Thanks for hanging in there and hearing the information. If you have any questions or anything that you want to discuss with us, don't hesitate to reach out. I think that we tried to incorporate in this recap any questions or discussion that came up in the live webinar that took place on January 22nd. I know most of you have it already, but here again is my contact information. Again, I'm Kelly Reese, and a lot of you have also been working, of course, with Sam Madison to collect your data. And here is again his contact information. And there's, of course, the study email address, atlas.study@air.org. And I just wanted to say thank you again, and we're looking forward to a productive spring in terms of the I3 Atlas study, and we'll talk to you soon.